Well, can you hear me or am I?
Yep.
I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Gotcha.
All right, so I'll do my script. This open meeting of the Triton Regional School Committee Facilities Subcommittee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, in response to the COVID pandemic and enacted into law Section 20 of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and provisions extended through March 31st, 2025 by the fiscal year 2023 supplemental budget signed by Governor Healey on March 29th, 2023. These provisions suspend the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public and bodies are allowed to and encouraged to participate remotely. I hereby call to order this meeting of the Triton Regional School Committee Facilities Subcommittee on May 3rd at 11:08 a.m. I am Matt Landers, the chair of the Facility Subcommittee. I'd like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Marissa Wallen?
Yes, I'm here and I can hear you.
Thank you. Town officials, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Alicia Greco?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Christine Nealon?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Brian Forget?
Here and I can hear you.
Brian Perry?
Yes, I'm here.
John Skoloki? I probably butchered that.
Yeah, here and I can hear you.
And Nicole?
I'm here and I can hear you.
And I'm sorry, Nicole. I don't know if I'm supposed to call your name, but that's okay.
That's
For this meeting, the Triton School Committee is conveying remotely via Zoom using the information provided on the district's website, identifying how the public may join. If you're personally attending by video conference using your device camera, please be aware that others may be able to see you. Committee members and administrators, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. All supporting material that has been provided to the members of the body are available on the district's website with the agenda posting, unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All right, I don't think we have any public, so do I have to do the public comment?
I have one comment before we start. Matt, I think you misread the time. It's 10 o'clock, not 11.
Oh, that's because I read my script. You're right. What did we start at 11 last time? That's why. Sorry.
I was like, wow,
Thank
is it
you.
11 o'clock already? I didn't think it went by that fast.
All right. So we don't have anyone from the public, so we can skip that part. And our minutes approval. So did everyone have or I guess it's just Narissa. Did you have the time to review the minutes?
I did. I reviewed the minutes and they looked fine to me.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second. Roll call vote. Narissa?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Oh, should I have said the date? I'm sorry. The May 3rd minutes? You can. Thank
No,
you.
it's not the minutes. It's the, hang on a second. I just skipped out of it.
I'm
Today
sorry,
is
March
the
15th. Yeah, I might need
Yes,
glasses.
there we go.
All right, and then the next agenda item is to review the building tour. Anyone want to go first?
I can kick it off. I know, so most of us, I know Christine, you weren't able to join us. I think the rest of us, just looking around the screen, were able to be there. Was hoping Neil was going to be able to be there or here today, but I think it makes sense just to go through and just kind of recap kind of what we learned. I mean, the purpose was to get a starting point of where what we're working with, and ultimately, I know this subcommittee has a larger scope beyond the middle school and high school campus. Want to take some purview and discussions and look at the elementaries as well. But I think in the short term, obviously, the middle school, high school is the glaring need. So I know Narissa put a little slide deck together to kind of guide our discussion to take a look at, so we can identify what the priorities are for this building. That building. I'm not sitting in that building right now. So are you able to share your screen, Narissa?
Hang on a second. I actually thought you were, I didn't realize you weren't going to be in your office. So I assumed you were going to be.
What?
Yeah.
I can, hang on. I can log in.
Yeah, so I had not intended to put together a presentation. I was taking pictures for my own purposes. And then when we realized that, we were going to have a bunch of people that were missing it, and that it was probably also a good thing to sort of talk about what we saw during the tour at this meeting. I threw those all together just with some like real quick bulleted thoughts about the things that I didn't think to grab pictures of. I got in the habit with Pine Grove about taking pictures of everything because I found that once you go through, like you start with sort of the original thing, and then sometimes that's phased through various transitions. And also at the same time, you're looking at the 27 versions that the architect is suggesting to you. And by the time you're done, you can't remember what the original thing looked like. So I have, are you logging in as John Doe, Brian?
I didn't mean to do it. Hang on. That is me.
I mean, I can share too if you want. I just pulled it
No.
up.
Narissa, thank you for
yeah.
doing that because I think it's going to be helpful as a starting point for this project.
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, I didn't think to grab pictures of everything because I was trying to grab the stuff that I wanted to remember. So I did throw in some thoughts. So my hope is that the folks that were on it can add to this, because I'm sure I didn't capture everything. And I know like people are asking John questions, people are asking Brian Forget questions. So in those conversations, I didn't always hear what was going on. And sometimes, we were 20 feet behind the main group, kind of lingering in spaces to get a better look once the group had passed on. So that was the other thing, is that I wasn't always up there hearing what was said. Brian, are you sharing, or do you want me to share?
Working on it. Please stand by.
Okay. Ah, beautiful. Look at that. Thank you, John Doe.
Here for you.
So as it turned out, I had a ton of pictures of the roof, but so the majority of it is going to be roof pictures, but I did kind of go chronologically through the tour. So feel free to chime in. I know, Alicia, you had to leave early, but hopefully you have thoughts on the sort of the beginning of it. And almost everyone else was there for the whole thing. I know Chris missed it. And obviously, this is a unique view that you're seeing here. So it's not like, I don't know who's actually seen this view from the top of Triton before, but it's not a common one, I'm sure. So I don't know if you want to just step through, Brian. We started sort of on the underground side going into the locker rooms. I couldn't take a whole lot of pictures down there because there wasn't a whole lot to take pictures of. I don't know if John, you want to talk about sort of this, but a lot of what we talked about was humidity down there, and then just that the tiles are lifting because the drains are all collapsed onto the floor, so they can't clear the water back up anymore. And then obviously there were lockers down there where the locks don't work anymore. They were just standing open, that type of thing. I don't know what anyone else wants to add, or John, you probably have a better narrative than me on what was down there without pictures.
I think you nailed it. I mean, it's just in disrepair. You see, over time, ceiling grids have been torn down, ceiling tiles with the humidity have started to collapse, just holding that much moisture. I mean, you see it on the first level, never mind the locker rooms, where they start to sag just from the humidity. We've done some things by adding, mobile dehumidifiers to try and help reduce that issue. But everything else I said there is accurate. A lot of the drain pipes, even trying to clear them this past year, we can't snake them because they have collapsed under the floors, just settling, and years of the building moving have collapsed a lot of those. So yeah, no, I think you've covered everything there.
So what's the plan if they clog again and you can't snake them?
Yeah, we have just used shop vacs to clean them all out. There are some drains working, but when we go down there and do a deep cleaning of the locker rooms, it's sanitizing everything, pretty much pressure washing the floors and everything else. That's when we're having problems getting the floors to drain, right? So we have to go down there and actually shop vac them up, clean out the water, use dehumidifiers to dry everything out, fans, everything else. But that process will have to be done again when we go down there and do a deep cleaning.
I don't know if anybody else had anything to add on locker rooms. No, moving on.
Yeah.
So this is when I actually started remembering to take pictures. We saw a lot of this through the facility, I think. It's just the next couple of slides, it's a lot of damage where the roof had leaked down through. Temporary repairs have been made, but it's clearly damaged ceilings. I think, John, is this one in the middle school?
This photo is this photo is actually it looks like the high school band room.
I was gonna say.
Oh, yes.
Band room, yeah.
Yeah, so this is part of the gymnasium building, where you have the old tar and gravel roof with the rubber roof over it, where we see that, drainage leak through from time to time. So you're seeing it here. There's a few locations on the walls. We have that same problem in this portion of the building.
Yeah.
This is
I
the
think
middle school here.
Right, the one on the left is the middle school, and then I actually had 3 pictures of the hallways, and there's no easy way to get a picture of those sagging tiles.
Yeah.
But that's like throughout the building. I took them in 3 different places, I think, and there's just no real easy way to see that bow on a photo, but
Yeah, the key is moisture, right? This is the theme, the recurring theme as we walked, and every 90% of the issues I feel like we're dealing with, whether it's, that ceiling, well, maybe what is it, 150 feet to the left is where it's coming in, and that the famous middle school, the gunk wall, right? All of this has to do with moisture infiltration, whether that's moisture from standing water or just water, literal physical water pouring in. So much of the issues come down to water infiltration into the building, including that left picture, which is, I think it's easy. So that is not easy, clearly noting that that's a 3-story shot underneath that roof on the left there. But it's easy to say, why wouldn't we fix it? Because it's going to leak and do the exact same thing. So it's that wall there. Forget what you call it, a parapet wall, John?
Parapet wall, yeah.
That is that kind of curved wall to the right side of the middle school entrance. And all along that wall has been the area that we've dealt with classrooms that got closed earlier this year because of mold, where we've spent significant tens and tens of thousands in roof repairs and mold remediation, but not like tenting, just cleaning up mold and retesting. And so it's water. It's just water, including those tiles. Like you said, I think if you got a shot literally holding the camera right up against the tile, you see just how much this isn't the type of tile they would use in a building now. I don't know what they call, but they kind of have that kind of finish to them. It's a little more stable just because of that moisture. So
yeah, so this one was, I think, hard to see for all of us. Just the damage that it's causing through walls and flooring. The one on the left in particular, I hadn't seen how bad it was, because normally when I'm in that gym, the bleachers are out. And I mean, it's just, John was saying, it was just basically moisture that was getting in there, and it's partially lifting, partially rotting. And
yeah, it's tough to keep up with the leaks. They get to them as often as they can, but there's times where the water will sit there for a couple hours. We're not not a school day, nobody's on, and this is where the stands come out, so it's going to become a bigger problem with pulling those stands out at some point.
Yeah, the biggest issue is it's not just a cosmetic thing, right? The point that you were making, John, is eventually we won't be able to roll I don't know how many 1,000-pound bleachers out on top of those, because it won't be able to roll through there. So we can repair, but it's going to end up looking like this again until the full repair, which is a brand new roof. And then that right picture is that's actually the band room as well.
Same, yeah, sludge wall just happens to be band room.
Band room sludge wall.
Yes.
yeah,
John, is it the gym area that's the only roof that has asphalt underneath it, or is it the whole school?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe it's the entire school, but I don't know if there's other sections that have where that's been left.
I was gonna say we were crunching over the middle school, so I believe at least that section, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But that doesn't have the gravel underneath on the middle school section where we
I
were.
don't think, well, no, not on the section where we
Where-
climbed up. We climbed
Yeah.
up, right? Did we go up that ladder? We did.
We came out the girls' room in the third floor.
Oh, so we didn't go up to that other section. Yeah, yeah. We were only on the old section, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. We did a good walk around the outside in the front. And I have a picture kind of on the next one, but I think, you know, it's general deterioration. It's really obvious. On the exterior brickwork, it's obvious everywhere that there's kind of those concrete, I don't know what they're called. They're like a drain around the bottom of the window that looks like it's supposed to funnel any rain away, down and away from the window. The wave shelters, we had a fairly significant discussion about the snow and ice hazard that those present because they tend to dump all at once. And they're obviously like those are meant to protect kids, and that's they're actually a hazard instead. This was one picture I took that captured sort of all of those things.
Yeah, those what are those?
Yeah, so you can see the wave shelters on the right-hand side. I had actually a few pictures of what you're seeing sort of in the center of that, with the long oval, which is all those under window sections where it's sort of the tapered concrete and it's all just deteriorating there. And then it's hard to see in the pictures of brickwork, but you can see in the spot on the left-hand side right there pretty obviously where the brickwork has just, I mean, it's wearing, I guess. I don't know if it's the brick itself or if it's what's holding it on, the adhesive or what it is, John, but you know, there's clearly been a lot of repairs made. There's whole sections that are have been redone. You can tell that, but I mean, it's just such a large surface, I think. I don't know if anybody else has anything to contribute. Oh yeah, we're on to the roof for the next one.
I was gonna say on this one, I think that's the sills that the kind of the
Concrete.
oval there.
Yeah.
No, that
Small
word.
windows,
Thank you.
That's specific to the old building. So this is all of this structure that you picture up here is the late 60s, the 71 original building. So all of that is 50 years old. They did replace those sills, I believe, for the addition renovation in 2009, you know, late 90s. But I think it just speaks to the construction, right? You're using that old construction. A lot of those windows, the frames didn't get replaced. They kept everything else in place, replaced the glass with like double glazed glass. Double pane glass rather, and it just didn't do the fix, right? So now in the discussion with Habib, there is a way to fix that correctly, and part of that is that entire window frame. So everything from masonry to masonry, right, and the whatever the frame is, whether it's steel frame around, the whole thing is replaced in a whole new unit, which would prevent this from just continuing to recur every 20 years. So,
Yeah. And then we spent a lot of time on the roof. I think the biggest thing for me with the roof with the shock value was how unstable a lot of the roof felt. I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of discussion up there because you would step in one spot and it would either feel soft or it was literally cracking under your feet. And you know, John assured us it was safe. And we all did make it down. But it was, it's definitely, obviously the rubber membrane itself. I went back here because it was hard to see and circled all the patches that are just that open door that's in the background is the door that we came out. So this is like literally the section that we came straight out to. And those are all the patches that are just in that little section right there. showing how much that roof has been patched.
Yep.
I don't know. I know Alicia spent a lot of time kind of up there poking around. I don't know if you have thoughts or
No, I just concur with what you said about the feeling walking up there. I'm like, and
Yeah.
there are an awful lot of patches.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
this roof was replaced in, call it 99, 2000, when the building reopened. So it is coming up on 23 years. So it is not a 52-year-old roof, but like John was speaking to, it wasn't, the whole entire roof didn't get stripped down to the original material and a membrane put on. Even if it had, the reality is we're nearing the end.
Yeah.
25 years is the useful life of a roof. So if you look at the roof at Pine Grove or Pentucket, any of these newer buildings, you'll notice white. So even the technology they use is entirely different now. And when I've been on the roof at Pine Grove, even through the construction project recently, it just feels different, right? You walk out, it feels solid underneath your feet. That's what we should be feeling is solid roof deck with a rubber EPDM membrane over that. But again, it doesn't, there are pieces this where we could start to do the roof in sections, right? You see, this is a good shot because you can see the that is new. The door that we walked out of is new structure. You can see the brick and the concrete along the top looks newer. And then to the left, you can see that parapet wall. That's the middle school lobby backside of that. And then the wing heading towards the stadiums to our left in this picture. That we could start replacing the roof, as we start to talk about next steps, we could replace the roof in sections because where every time the elevation changes, it is a completely separate roof. Right? Is that accurate, John?
Yes.
Yeah. So the issue becomes that thing sitting in front of us in the middle of the picture is called, for those not, it's called a rooftop unit. Everyone refers them as RTUs. So that's the heating and cooling for a certain section, all of the buildings, all of the rooms rather. To the left of that oval, you see that vent. In that picture, it's below the circle left of the oval, next to the tree there. That's those, and you can see them along the edge of the concrete. Those are the vents for unit ventilators. So in the classrooms, the heaters, air circulation is those boxes on the side of a classroom. It's like a shelf. That's a unit ventilator that provides heating and air circulation to the classrooms. There is no cooling, obviously. These rooftop units, monsters, several of them up there.
There's more pictures if you keep going, Brian. I took most of my pictures were of the roof, so you can see a lot of the other units.
Oh, Alicia. You can
That's
prove
Alicia.
you there, Alicia.
I was there.
So
Those
obviously,
rooftop units, those things they were scary to me, Brian.
yeah.
Do they work?
So any of the interior rooms that have cooling, libraries, large spaces, these are the units that are providing both heating and cooling. So that one looks pretty bad, getting worse. And then you can see all the insulation is gone. And the left side of that one, you can see they did some kind of what the material is, John, but they wrapped it to try and keep the insulation intact.
Yes. Probably rubber roofing.
This is kind of like square in the middle of the roof is it 4 RTUs or 3 RTUs that are all kind of farmed together. But you can see all of that is open exposed ductwork. And we've had quotes to re-insulate these. You can see it hanging off the back. Oh, I have a pointer. I didn't think about that. You could this area all here, you can see it hanging. That's some insulated, some not insulated, insulated, not insulated. So all of that uninsulated ductwork, if it's 90 degrees outside, it's 120 degrees up on that roof with the rubber membrane. If that thing is producing cooled air, it's going into ductwork that's sitting probably around 100 degrees. So by the time that cooled air gets down to the actual room, we've lost, I'm not a scientist, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, don't know what it is.
Significant amount, yes.
We are losing significant, like we are spending significant dollars to send the cool air that's reheating before it even reaches the space. So these, back to the roof discussion, we could pull apart the roof as a project, right? So we could itemize. There's the right, the kind of the new wing at the middle school that's 3 stories. That's one level. Then we walked out onto, that was all one level. Then we stepped onto that back it wasn't the cafeteria, I guess that was that back wing, kind of looking over the baseball or softball field. And then the cafeteria is lower. So all of those different sections could be treated as separate projects. The issue is what you're looking at is that wherever there's a rooftop unit, those are ballasted, meaning weighted down rather than necessarily drilled into, actually those must be drilled into the roof too. Those can't be just ballasted.
Yeah, they have curbs on them that go on the roof. So if you change the
That's
rooftop
right.
unit, you'd most likely have to change the curb.
Yeah, so those have to come off in order to replace the roof. And so, right, you'd be anyone who has done estimates and looked at that. I don't think there's any engineer that would say you're spending good money to put that thing back on the roof. Because you would have to reduct it, right? That stuff is not going to come apart cleanly and be able to be put back together nicely. So, we've gotten estimates to re-wrap and re-insulate all of these. I forget the exact number. It's been a while. I was shocked, flabbergasted, and this was pre-current inflation of the construction industry. Significant money to go in and re-wrap all those and re-insulate them. And again, there's a lot of all of those units need to be changed. Our controls for all of those are pneumatics, which I'm not sure when pneumatics left as a standard, but a long time ago. So literally the thermostat in my office, there's a little thing I can pull and I can hear air hiss because it's literally based on air pressure. So to replace those, you have to replace the controls. You can't replace the controls for just one unit efficiently without replacing all the controls. So it becomes a significant challenge to do a project and start to piecemeal this. So I've been talking a lot. I wasn't going to talk a lot.
And then we have the elephant in the room of the MSBA, whether they are going to approve a project or not, and whether we're doing work on a building that may or may not be ripped down.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 And I think again, the goal is for this group to come up with a plan, I should say. We'll talk about that, the proposal from Habib, to have a plan B, right? If we're calling MSBA plan A at the moment, then what is plan B if A doesn't come to fruition? But we also have to talk about maybe plan B becomes plan A, even if plan A does come to fruition, right? Even if we do get welcome to the MSBA, is there an alternative path we can take that isn't the full required process that goes with the MSBA? As a reminder, if we partner with the MSBA, we have to study everything. To Matt's point, we have to study, you're looking out to the JV softball field on the current screen, right? Below the building there on the right is the varsity softball field, all the fields to the right, stadium to the right? We would have to, with the MSBA, look at other locations in town, other locations on campus. Is it more cost effective to knock this building down and then to rebuild out in the fields? I don't think there's a ton of space out there. Obviously, we know this would be a much smaller building if we were to partner with the MSBA. Our enrollment, the MSBA's process is enrollment driven. Christine remembers this with Pine Grove, right? So they told us that we had 91,000 square feet there. They would give us a building that was 63,000 square feet, I believe the number was. We ended up being creative with that 4th classroom space to make it reimbursable, but there are still things that become unreimbursable because the state says, this is how many students you have. This is your projected growth over the next 10 years. Here's a number we'll certify you for student enrollment. That translates to a building square footage size. So Pentucket just built a building. They're just a tick over 200,000 square feet. on a smaller footprint than ours. This building is about 286,000 square feet. We're slightly smaller enrollment now than Pentucket. So we can safely say we would not get certified to rebuild 290,000 square feet. It's probably going to be under 200. So all of those things, the timelines, that study, we can expect to pay $1.5 million to $2 million. That's all required. You sign up and say yes to the MSBA after they say yes to you, we're spending that money. If we do it on our own, obviously there is the looking the gift horse in the mouth concept, concern about looking at potentially significant tens of millions of dollars in state money that could be help to offset the cost. But I think it's something that we have to evaluate to make sure that that is the right choice for the building moving forward. At a face value, we talked earlier about John was talking about in the locker rooms, the settling and stuff. There is settling. The building as a building itself is structurally sound, right? So the report from Habib said it's good bones. Obviously, a lot of gut redo needed, but the bones are good. So that's the adventure we're embarking on. So I'll keep going. Sorry. So fields.
Yep. And the greenhouse that was destroyed. I actually had this one originally with the front, just talking about concrete deterioration, but I think the back loading dock and the next picture is the cement pad that's under the dumpster that's back there. Just show kind of the extent of that outside concrete deterioration where it's just really crumbling after, whatever, 50 years.
Yeah.
I'm assuming those are original to the original, to the original build.
Yeah, there's some patchwork involved there, but yeah.
I was going to say, you can see this seam here. So this was all repatched. So this front that's deteriorating is a patch, but again, a patch is not a long-term solution.
No.
Right? Not a patch. The right solution is cutting this entire thing out and rebuilding the entire structure. This is the problem with when you try and patch an already water infiltrated concrete. Right, concrete is, we'd had this with the Pine Grove project. We have to be really careful about salt, ice melt and all of those things. There's specific products you can use because at the end of the day, that eats through the concrete. And once you start to put a chink in concrete's armor, it's a quick path to this. So.
Yeah, and then there were some that I didn't take pictures of when John's showing us like bathrooms. It's not obvious from a picture kind of what's there, but you could see there's just deterioration, talking about the drainage issues that exist in the outbuilding. There's some flooring damage there, and apparently a set of bathrooms was, because it was not originally intended to be a permanent academic part of the structure. There were bathrooms that never got hooked up out there, is my understanding. So those are out there, and then because was not again intended to be a permanent academic structure, they have to shut some of the bathrooms down over the winter and winterize those. We spent some time in the boiler room and just talked about the units that are there. There was actually one that was about to be under repair when we were down there, because they're older systems and they do break down fairly frequently. There are 3 boilers down there, 4?
3.
Yeah. Yeah. And then talking about the electrical room, Matt was doing research and looking for names and on brands and all that stuff, because the systems are quite old and difficult to maintain. We talked about elevators and we talked about the tight tanks, which have been sort of an ongoing topic of discussion for the school committee for the last, I don't know, 2-3 months at this point, after we had one out back that was compromised, I guess. And John showed us where the second one is, essentially back by the cafeteria as well. And they both need to be, they're the plan is hopefully to actually repair both of those so that they're a long-term fix for us, because that can be an environmental issue, and with us being so close to the Great Marsh, obviously that's not something that the district wants to get into if those start leaking. And yeah, I think I wasn't sure what people were going to say as we were talking through this. So I just tried to pick out the things that we heard like over and over and over again as we went through the tour, like almost every single location that we were doing, as we were walking through hallways, as we were in various rooms, as we were up on the roof, outside, inside. This was sort of the main three themes that I kept hearing.
I think, right, water. We're
Yeah.
very close to the water, and I think even with regard to site work, as you're driving into Triton and you're coming in that entrance road, if you're taking that left into the main parking lot, I'm pretty sure you've all driven that to come to meetings, not going toward the building, but the main parking lot. I mean, I don't know what you like, the rippled, and even the entry drive where we have our main break kind of halfway down the entrance drive in that left lane, up at the top. So there are water, right? I think there's a lot of site work that needs to be done. Not necessarily, I mean, it can be thought, traffic patterns and all that, but the greatest need for this building, yes, I will speak for myself, and I think I speak for others. Would the idea of a brand new building, thinking of a Pentucket, right? Is that something we would want? Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that having an educational institution like that would be the ideal. But there may be a solution, as we propose to the MSBA even, that using the existing space, whether it be even if there be, some parts that are knocked down, rebuilt and renovated and added onto, that this space could still meet the educational needs. However, like at the core, what we need is to start with keeping the water out at the roof level, then all of the building envelope, windows, roofs, or windows and doors, and even the facades, right? John's talked about as we were walking around, there's water infiltrating right through the masonry coming in. Keeping the water out, and then site work around the building even to make sure that all of that water is leaving, right? So that all of that, whether it be grading or actual physical mechanical drainage, that all of that's reworked so that water, all of these other things, the concrete deterioration is water-based. And then the systems, obviously there's just, that needs to be replaced as well. So, but I think the theme, if we were to put a theme on it, it really is, it's about old systems and water and needing to stop that. So.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize until we were actually up there on the roof. I've always heard the stories about the roof leaking and the surface in some cases lifting when we've had really bad storms with a lot of wind and things like that. But I think one thing that sort of came home to me during that point of being up on the roof is exactly how much patching has been done on there. It looks like it's been a constant job over the last however many years. And I think, to me, that all that constant work is what's kept the interior of the building relatively solid, right? That's why all that maintenance and ongoing work is why there isn't the structure itself isn't compromised, because it's been done. But at some point, as things get older and older, it's like that old story of the kid with his finger in the dam and and then the leak springs up over there and then in another space. And at some point you can't, it's very hard to keep on top of that. And that's when things sort of start to fail on a more global level, which is, I think, either we're there or we're approaching that, where we're going to start to see those interior places like the flooring in the gym really start to get some more extensive damage, which is going to make, I think, any future project harder.
Yeah, that, I mean, that damage takes a while to develop, but it goes from bad to really bad very quickly, right? So that, I mean, again, we could spend good money repairing it, but I mean, this year we're, forget the exact number, Brian, but and it's not just the middle school, high school.
Yeah, and I think we're at the point where, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, we're 150,000 plus over budget. Forget about how much we've spent on our repair lines. We're up to 150,000 over this year so far, and I think it's even higher than that. So what were you gonna say, Matt?
I think we're getting to the point where we're past no return if we continue to let it go on. Even in the middle school with that roof coming through, I think there's going to be damage that's going to be very expensive to repair.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah, that kind of
lobby.
that was disappointing because that lobby is a very nice lobby.
Yeah.
It looks pretty new.
Yeah. So that's
To patch
2,000,
that, I
right?
mean, that's an extremely expensive job to fix that, because we have to stage, I mean, that, like Brian said, that's 3 stories high. So you have to stage that entire area just to patch that ceiling, and we're just chasing leaks at this point, trying to stop it.
Yeah, but it would be pointless to patch that
Oh, of
interior
course.
now.
Yeah.
What is it, a flashing issue on the parapet wall, you think, or?
We've had repairs done on the parapet wall. We've had rubber patches done. I
Like
brought a roofer up
frozen in?
again recently. There's several more areas we're gonna try, but I mean, it's just chasing it. It could be coming from 20 feet away, it's on that type of decking roof system. It could be coming in several locations.
Yeah, right. So then we get to the value of replacing a roof all at once is warranty, right? So a roofer comes in and we say, here is our roof, and it all happens at once, they own it, right? So from that point, obviously the warranty doesn't last forever, but when they're looking at all components of a roof in its entirety versus a leak, they can't stand behind a leak because all they can say is, and I mean, these guys have done great work, but like they repair a leak. We're sure it's not coming in there, but like John said, water travels. I mean, how many of you know it from your homes, right? Once you get a leak, you think you got it, and then on the other side of the house, but it's coming from the same place. So yeah, I think Matt's words of arriving at the point of no return are definitely pretty close there for sure.
Yes.
So, so any other final thoughts? I think the next item.
Alicia,
Go
what
ahead,
did you think, Alicia, of the tour?
I had to leave because I didn't see the back of it, but I've been there. I mean, when you were saying the dumpster outside, is that the one outside the cafeteria that you were talking about? Where it was, yeah, so I've seen that rotten when I used to do middle school dances. That's how long ago that was. I think I think we need to do something. I think it's like you said, it's chasing good money after bad.
Yep.
I'm interested to dig deeper into what you said about like partially fixing it. Like when you were saying just do the roof, windows, and something else. I don't know. I'm worried about the drains, but I don't know if that can be fixed with the floor. Digging up the floor. I don't know. I'm worried about getting not welcomed into this MSBA again and having this continue because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, sure. So to that point, the next, I suppose I could just pull that up and share again. Please stand by.
We need to have a plan. I guess that's what I'm saying.
And the other thing with inflation, even if we get accepted into MSBA in 6 years, we've lost what we're going to get back in inflation anyway.
Well, we can't do 6 years. We can't wait 6 years. Can we, John?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of work.
I think we've waited too long
to make it
as it
through
is.
6 years.
Yeah, I mean, can we? Of course, we can do anything. But I mean, we're going from the amount of repairs and the cost of the repairs has escalated quickly, right? Of course, you're always doing repairs. I mean, with 700,000 square feet of facilities across the district, of course, there's always repairs happening and preventative maintenance. But the level of repairs has ratcheted up. Even, we've noticed at Pine Grove, right? You get to that 5-year mark and the cost of things that are no longer under warranty, those RTUs, things start to ratchet up. So now at 25 years post project at the middle school, high school, it has got exponentially more costly. And so that's right. The towns are going to pay that through our budget, or if we can find a way to strategically come up with a solution. So I'll share my screen again.
So we're gonna have challenges with the operating budget anyways, because of the nature of what happened this season. I can see it going, I mean, this budget season, I can see it happening again next budget season. And if you add the cost of these repairs that are required, it's gonna be exponential.
Yeah, so this wouldn't be operating, right? I think, our discussion from the very beginning this is 1000% an override, right? There is no solution here we're not talking just the repairs were 62,000 5 years ago. I'm sorry, 62 million. I wish it was 62,000. So yes, we're talking about 100 million, 200 million. I'm making up numbers, but we're not talking about small repairs that are going to be covered through the operating budget. It is absolutely a separate building project that we would need all 3 towns to support. So when the towns, when the select boards voted 3-4 years ago, and they're, to submit that first statement of interest to support that, it was knowing that, right, this is big. This has to be a separate project, because operationally, to that point, we're over, right? So, the operating budget, 75,000 of the increase for next year is adding to repair lines. Hopefully we don't have the same year next year, but we're kind of split the difference. And if we know we're already 150 over at this point in the year, we got to at least put half of that into next year's budget and assume. So yes, we're going to start seeing huge increases operationally in the interim until we have a much larger project that would end up being a debt exclusion. So, right, we're not looking at a $450 million project like Whittier, but I think if you talk to, case in point on the screen, Kevin Provencher from Habib, who did the needs assessment. So this is a proposal from him. It's included on the agenda if you want to. I'm clicking on the wrong screen. To look into more detail, but the basic gist is the designer selection law in Massachusetts, we can work up to $30,000. Over 30,000, you have to put it up for bid and proposals. So this is a proposal for, I believe, not to exceed $29,900. Not to say we're skirting the law, but this allows us to enter into a contract with Habib and Associates. Kevin Provencher would be the lead, and then they would. You can see the consulting services there in the middle. It's meeting with us, reviewing capital budgets, determining priorities, and preparing some concept studies. So what this does is this gives us a professional resource to say, if Plan A is the MSBA, it's where there is nothing to do before we start working with them, because the whole process kicks off with the development of a building committee, right? That would have school and town official representation, and all of the process is conducted with the MSBA. If we don't, then we need, what is the plan B? And like I said earlier, maybe the plan B becomes the plan A if we find a solution. In talking to Kevin, he said it's a rare project that's not $200 million for a building of the size of Triton, 150 to 200,000 square foot building. It's a rare project these days that are coming in under $200 million. So the thinking behind this is, okay, if we, and this would all be part of the stuff we would work through with him at a high level, if we said, okay, assume a renovation, addition, building, whatever would be 200 million, best case scenario is a 50-50 split, because what it actually ends up being is reimbursement for eligible expenses. For Whittier, it was a $446 million project. They had a 62-ish, 63% reimbursement rate. They were getting 186, 189. That's not 63% of 446 million. It's 63% of about 300 million. So that means there was about 145 million worth of costs in their project that were not MSBA reimbursable. We remember this from the Pine Grove project. Site work generally isn't reimbursable. So best case scenario on a $200 million project, we get 100 million from the MSBA. The towns pay 100 million. The thought behind this exercise with Kevin would be to say, whatever numbers we want to use, take that 100 million, that would be our portion with the MSBA. What could we do just as a renovation to the existing building? What could we reconceive? What could we fix? What could we do? Then the $1.5 million, $1.6 million that we have in stabilization right now that we would have to use to study with the MSBA, we could use that and partner and go out and select a designer and start designing right away. We drive the bus, we make the determination, and that money isn't spent studying, it's spent designing.
And would we be eligible for any MSBA money?
So through that project, we could potentially apply. So the two programs, again, are accelerated repair and the core program. We applied for the core program. You can apply to the accelerated repair if they've refined. It used to be rooftop units as well, but now it's just basically building envelope, roofs, windows, and doors. That can be as long, summarize, big list, but the big one is there has to be at least a 25-year useful life left in the building. So when we looked at that program to say, hey, could we get a new roof and rooftop units for the campus? They said, would you ever be doing other renovations, additions? We said, probably. And, do you expect another 25 useful years out of the building? I can't answer that as a yes. So we didn't qualify for that now, but there is the potential through a project, if we're doing it on our own, to say, hey, we're going to apply to the accelerated repair program for the roofs, windows, and doors building envelope portion. And we're also going to apply through Nat Grid and state agencies for, energy efficiency reimbursements. And so, yeah, all of that can be on the table. We would then decide locally what pieces we want to move towards. But we would, as a whole, the project would not be MSBA reimbursable.
No, not the whole thing, but some of it maybe.
Could be, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think we have to do this.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
Meaning look at Plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, Matt?
What did you say?
I think unfortunately we have to look at Plan B.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately we have to look at Plan B.
What do you think? What does everybody else think? Hold the rum.
I'm in agreement to look at Plan B, because my concern is, even if we if we get accepted with the MSBA, we wouldn't begin repairs for another 2 to 3 years out, correct?
Correct.
I mean, these pictures are frightening that I just saw. So something has to be done, and I think we need to look at, that's just my opinion, Plan B.
Yeah, and it doesn't, if I just one more thing, I know people are polling and giving their opinion. It doesn't need to be that if Plan B has to be just repairs, right? We keep talking about, you didn't take a picture of the obelisk, right? The famous obelisk we keep talking about that's under the flagpole. It's an $86,000, whatever the number is, obelisk for a light with a flagpole on top of it. That was included as a repair cost in that estimate from Habib. There's no repairing that. Knock it down, put a flagpole in, right? The steel awning out front, maybe who was it, Flansburgh liked that as a design element, back in the late 90s, no, we're not going to replace that. We're just going to knock it down and find another way to create shelter. Also, people don't wait much. I mean, there are definitely some. It doesn't need to be that whole distance. It could be smaller. So all of that, we can do both fixing what we really want to fix and rethinking some spaces. I know we keep talking about the entry courtyard between the gym and the high school entrance. Just knock the cafeteria off the back, bring the cafeteria forward, and you've got the cafeteria, dining commons right next to the gymnasiums, which is right next to the auditorium, and make that your entry as well. Close up the middle school entrance. Everyone enters through there, and then you have an entrance into the middle school and entrance into the high school, right? So those types of things, approving efficiency, approving safety, approving, I'll call it rentability, right? So a facility that has 2 huge gyms with food facilities and an auditorium literally connected, we would be able to rent that out anytime it's not in use by the district. I mean, there'd be so many groups that would want to use that space and rent it out. So all of those things can be considered on our own, right? We're not bound by the MSBA saying, well, yes, that's good, but we wouldn't partner. We wouldn't reimburse you for that. We wouldn't reimburse you for that. We would just get to design, and there'd be one figure. It would be the project cost, and we would know what the project cost is. Again, as a schematic and starting to design it. It depends what happens when it goes out to bid. Just one more thing, so we're part of the North Shore Education Consortium and part of CREST Collaborative, 2 special education collaboratives. As a superintendent, I'm the district representative on the board. North Shore had a project, needed to replace all of their rooftop units, started as a $1 million project 7 years ago, became a $3 million project a couple of years ago. By the time it got scoped out, it became a $5 million project that was estimated about a year ago, because it had to do electrical, right? It was big, right? There's lots of other stuff, boilers, everything. The bid came in at 12 with an estimator, a professional estimator, a person who gets paid lots of money to professionally estimate projects, estimated at around 5.5, and it bid at 12. Then we've winnowed it down, and it was a little bit less, but then Crest Collaborative was replacing 1 rooftop unit, maybe 2. They had set aside $335,000. The bids came at $865,000 a piece. So again, these are professional estimators who already know the market, and supply, demand, it's kind of, construction is the new transportation, as far as, not that anyone would say people are colluding, but clearly it's just absolutely ridiculous, especially in the public sector. So all of those factors, we talked about it for Pine Grove. Pine Grove could have been a cheaper project. Started out as a $10 million renovation, ended up being a $39 million. It wasn't a renovation, right? That is in essence a brand spanking new building, but it escalates. So time is of the essence. So to your point, Christine, I hate the idea of not thinking about putting aside the idea of being able to re-envision the entire campus. I hate it, but we may not have that luxury right now. And so the proposal that's on the screen, it ends up being a school committee decision to spend those funds. And the proposal that I would make, Brian and I talking through this with John, would be to tap into the stabilization account to fund this. Obviously, that would be kind of go into next year. But this Kevin and the other resources there would be a resource for us to make those decisions, to be able to say, well, what if we do this? They can go away, study it, bring us back some concepts. So I think do we want to spend another $30,000? Of course we don't. But I think this is a key piece in order for us to have a plan B ready to go. And like I said, I'll keep saying this, plan B very well may become our plan A, right? This was designed as we've got to be ready to go if the MSBA says no in December, but by December, we might be in the camp of, my gosh, we could start next year and go out to bid if we blank. That'd be pretty compelling. So.
Can you forward me that information? I couldn't find the link.
So it's all on our board docs, all the committee agendas, everything's on board docs.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah, Nicole sent it. I mean, I guess I just have two thoughts. One, I would love as this goes forward, to Christine's point, even if plan A does start to go through, I think we're going to have to take some middle steps before we can get to the point of actually starting something. So I don't know if that's a sub item under plan A or how that looks, but I think those discussions need to be had with Habib as well, so that if there is an acceptance, we also have that interim plan to keep the building up and running in the meantime, because I don't think the patches are going to make it through. And then I just wanted to, from the finance side, just looking at the stabilization fund, I think we have to, it's always going to be tempting to say, like, we could wait another year and go back to the MSBA and try again. But I think we have the stabilization fund earmarked to this. The farther we get sort of past this tipping point, where the need for repairs starts to really accelerate, because we've already repaired and done so much maintenance already, but it's just sort of, we're coming over the top of the hill, right? And starting into sort of a downhill where things start to escalate. I'm worried that, like, this year, we're going to end up eating into that stabilization account more and more, and taking the money that's meant for design, and we're going to be using it towards those escalating repairs. So I think we have to be wary of either trying to punt out another year. I think we have to be essentially ready when we get the A decision in December to know what's going to happen, because if we don't, we're going to start losing that design fund. We're going to be spending it on the existing building for something that somehow is going to have to be addressed in a bigger way anyway. So I think time, I guess the thing is, time is of the essence in getting this done. I don't think we can sit on it, as tempting as it might be to wait for a match.
I think we
So,
go ahead, Matt.
sorry. So our next step would be for us to, me and Narissa, to vote on this, and we'll bring it to the whole committee.
Yes.
And what happens when the 29.9 runs out? Do we re-up, or?
So, I think we have to limit it to 29.9, right? So technically, we would be bid splitting if we were to go. So we didn't bid this. So the design of law is at 30,000. It has to be formally bid out. So I think we have to say we've got 29.9. And so I asked Kevin, I said, so tell me what we would be able to get for that 29.9. And I was using the term schematic as a kind of meaning high level thinking and planning. Schematic, if you know design, is actually a certain level of detail. So when you get into schematic designs, you're getting elevations and plans and mechanical.
Yeah, we did schematic design for the town hall. It was pretty detailed.
Exactly. So this is not, right, this isn't buying us schematic. This is buying us conceptual planning help. So drawings, yeah, some conceptual drawings, yes. Budgeting, estimating, evaluation to say, like I keep using that as an example, does it make sense to just literally raise the cafeteria in that whole back lower section, make it more parking lot, and fill in the high school entry courtyard to make that the food service commons? Study that. Does that even, as a concept, maybe not, because you have to move the whole kitchen, but those types of discussions is what he can help us work through to give us a sense of, and that's why I said, it's like, by the end, we need to be able to answer the question, what else could we do, and what would it cost? And what are to Narissa's points, what are the stop gaps along the way that we would be able to reasonably accomplish? So I think, I mean, to that point, I think we got to keep it at 29.9. We could spend an extra $99 to get it to 29.999, but that extra half hour of time may not do too much.
So let's just assume the committee votes to go this way, right? What does that do for budgetary for the three towns? What budgetary impact could that possibly have on the three towns?
Absolutely zero.
Right. We're taking it essentially out of the design funds. It's a very small portion, right? But we took some of our COVID grant money, which was allowed to be used for maintenance and safety concerns and all that stuff, and we set it aside in stabilization, knowing that something would need to be done down the road, but not having a timeline or anything like that. So we took $1.5 million of that and set it aside rather than using it sort of in the COVID grant fund timeframe, those federal funds. So that's sitting there. We're going to have to pull some from that to pay for the additional unexpected repairs this year. But the plan would be to also take the 30,000, I'm going to call it a ballpark 30,000, out of there as well. So that money is sitting there.
Okay.
With interest, it's like 1.6 something right now, I think, right, Brian?
Yes. Yep.
Or
It's
Brian.
a little over 1.6. Yep.
Yeah. Interest is working in our favor right now. This way.
It's the only thing, but I mean,
Right.
So in that case, I don't even think, given that we're pulling from stabilization, that you guys would get an amended budget, would they, Brian Perry?
No, this is just a transfer into it. If you
Right.
have the authority to vote to transfer it, then it's just a transfer, and at that point, it's not amending the budget.
Yeah. So the school committee would vote, it would come out of those existing funds from the federal COVID money to pay for this, and there would be no effect on the towns for
And that will
this
kick off,
piece.
and that will kick off our path down towards the Plan B.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So just a reminder, so that, and this was done with the towns as well, through DCC, we talked about the reserve funding plan. So the committee committed to adding $75 each year for 4 years, fiscal 24, fiscal 25 next year is year 2. First 2 years, 75 plus 75 is 150, goes into stabilization. Fiscal 26, we would add 75, that starts to go to OPEB. Fiscal 27, we would add 75 more, and that would go to OPEB. So within the 4-year span, there's a recurring line of 300,000, 150 going to stabilization, 150 going to OPEB. And that A, gives us the resources to be able to address the project, and B, a long-term funding source, so that as John, now new to the district, as we start to look at long-term capital planning, putting facilities, whether it be, like an ML work order system to put to paper and electronically, the chronicling of all the preventative maintenance, and being able to do some of those capital projects that we need to do along the way that will prevent a premature need for a project again. So this is all spending money that has been put through the operating budget that's been placed into stabilization. And again, one more time, if we don't go with the MSBA, we get to use that money, roughly 1.612 at the moment, to pay for design costs rather than using that money to study everything, which then the design costs become part of the project as well. So, and that's a question that Kevin would be able to answer for us too. So if we ended up with 1.75 million, a year from now in stabilization or whatever the number is, would that cover design services for a major overhaul renovation project? So that can all be worked through.
Okay.
You want to make a motion, Narissa?
Sure. I will make a motion to recommend to the Triton Regional School Committee the acceptance of the proposal by Habib and Associates as dated April 12th, 2024. You got a second, because we got nobody else.
Second. Second.
No, Caitlin.
So Salisbury's not on here at all.
No.
Okay.
No, Neil. I mean, I don't know what to, this is one of the reasons why we made the subcommittee. Well, partly because our subcommittees are always school committee members, and everything else ends up non-voting, and this was going to need something at some point. But the other piece is, we understand, there's going to be other priorities, there's going to be other things that take precedence for sort of the town folks. We want to make sure that you have a vested interest, and anytime you want to come speak, you have that opportunity here. And we would love the input, I think, but it was kept school committee so that we can make sure that we hit quorums and all that stuff if people had to miss.
Okay.
And I will say, Neil, I mean, I've had conversations with Neil. Right, Neil does this on a daily basis, so he understands the kind of the mechanics of stabilization use and kind of long-term planning. So I don't want to put words in Neil's mouth. I think as a concept, he would understand and appreciate this. That doesn't mean he would love it, but I think I've had ongoing to make sure it's updated. I've had conversations with him.
Okay.
Then I think
you
our.
You need a roll call vote, Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry, Narissa,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Good job. So I will put this on the agenda for the May meeting, whether the committee decides they want to take a vote at the May meeting. We can give them an update, or we can, either way, I'll put the proposal because it's part of this meeting. But then I know on the agenda, I'm going to have an update just for Brian and I to give a verbal update on the use of stabilization for the other repairs. And I think it makes most sense to say, let's come back in the June meeting to actually take that vote when we can be a little more confident in exactly what that number would be. So it wouldn't be a problem to table this vote too until
Yeah,
that's
so we do it once.
full clear picture of everything coming out of stabilization.
With me. So how long do you think, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking about the next time this committee meets. How long do you think that's gonna take before it makes sense for us to meet again? Is it best to keep it at monthly? Is it best to skip June and assume that balls are starting to roll at that point? And
Well, do you need this committee? Do you need any input from this committee in June before your vote or after your vote? I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so.
I think the next discussion with this group, and it would obviously start with the larger school committee, is to meet with Kevin, right? Is to start to talk about what we're looking for. I know we're here all summer, but I know summer's to get a little more sparse for participation. So I know we have June 14th, I believe, is the next meeting. And I'm going to request we at least change that because it's the last day of school. And there'll be a couple other things going on, running around on the last day of school. Didn't think about that when we, I think I'd already made that really good snow day call by that. I can't remember. It's such a bad storm. I kind of put it out of my memory. So I think I don't think there's anything further to review before the committee votes. I guess the committee could turn around and say at the May meeting, we want to approve this contract now and authorize Brian and I to execute this agreement, knowing we will fund it out of stabilization, whether that vote doesn't have to happen. That's not fiscal year bound, right, Brian? Yeah.
No, if it's agreed to come out of capital, that has a different shelf life than simply from the operating budget for the 1 year, but we would need to have some sort of assurances when we enter into the contract.
Okay. So we can figure out those details, but I don't think this committee needs to do anything before the full committee authorizes that contract and funding.
All right, so then we don't need to meet again until July?
That'd be my take on it, or very late June.
If we want to meet in July.
Yeah. I don't want to lose time. I want things to keep moving, but.
Yeah, as long as Kevin can make a July meeting.
I was gonna say, what about that? I feel like July, everyone disappears. Not all of you, but vacation start.
Not me.
I'm just wondering that last week of June, right? The 24th to 28th. Friday is the 28th. I think it sounds like Fridays we're working for folks. Could we put that on the calendar just as a target? And if we need to adjust it, I would love to start this in June. I'd love to start this right this second, but I would love to, before July, have that meeting where Kevin's here and we're setting him off to say, here's what we want you to start working on. I would love that in the month of June.
I'm actually
I
out of
can do
town the
that.
24th to the 28th.
So
You're
I
out of
have,
town?
have
am
a,
I am out that week.
sorry, I have a time on the 14th of June, a meeting with this group already. We're gonna move that, right?
I think we move that, maybe even 1 week out. Do we do the 21st? Is that
21st?
around that week?
That works.
That
Good
will
for
be,
me.
that will be post-school committee meeting, so everything can be authorized. And that, I want to meet, I want to start this process with Kevin as soon as possible. If the committee decided to take action on this at the May meeting, we could pull it even closer than that. But I think for now, it makes sense to just put the next meeting on the 21st of June and work towards that. So
I'm good
seeing
with that.
That works.
nods around the screen.
All right, that's good, and I'm being pulled in another direction, so I gotta.
Okay.
Thanks, Alicia.
Bye,
Bye,
Alicia.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
We're staying at the same time.
All right.
So does 10 work for everyone?
Works for me.
Yes.
So this meeting will continue to be Zoom when we meet with Kevin, not in person?
Oh, that's a good point.
I'm feeling like it should be
I don't
in
really-
person.
I do too.
Okay.
I think I like that idea. I mean, my one thing, I think it
What do you think,
definitely
Marissa?
needs to be videotaped. So I think as long as we can arrange the videotaping of a live session, because that's one, I don't want to lose the transparency and publicity and the ability for other people who can't make it live at 10 o'clock on a Friday morning, to be able to review it. But I do think anytime that we're dealing with stuff like that, it's way easier to have it on a big screen than it is to have it on the little screen.
So in the conference room in the central office, can we just do a Zoom meeting from there?
Yeah. And we could
So
just, even if
we're all live.
yeah, even if the Zoom was people that wanted to participate or just be able to see the screen, we can just use the
Okay.
Zoom screen capture really to just, record the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
So plan is June 21st, 10 a.m. I am going to reach out to Kevin and say, not going to have a signed contract for you right now, but if he can just pencil in June 21st to have a first meeting with him.
Awesome.
All right.
When is the next,
Right,
when is this being
motion
brought
to
to school
adjourn.
committee? Oh,
Say that again, Chris.
I'm sorry, when are you bringing this to the school committee? Is it a meeting?
So the May meeting, which is in a week and a half,
Okay.
will be the first time they're seeing any of this.
Okay.
So my thinking is that the comfort level will be, we talk about it. We show, right, that we're doing this, and Matt and Narissa can give an update. And then we would come back at the June 12th meeting to have them take the vote, because then we're doing other stabilization stuff as well as a vote to execute the contract. And then we can be ready for the 21st.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Good.
Okay.
Second, sorry.
Motion to
Yes.
adjourn. Is that what you wanted?
Oh yeah, I thought you said it. You broke up. Yeah, second.
I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
Second. Roll call vote, Narissa.
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a nice
everyone.
weekend.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
You too.